So, and then if we could get the money to Linnell, so she can count it for us.
Those of you who know me know that I'm a dreamer, and I am one of those people who believes the sky is the limit. Well, our speaker today is someone who doesn't agree with me. He believes that the sky is not the limit. In fact, there is all that space out past the sky that is the new frontier. And I've met Sean probably a few years ago, maybe about 3 or 4 years ago. We were at NWEN together, Northwest Entrepreneurial Network, and since then we've worked a little bit together on different projects. And one thing that really strikes me about Sean is that he has found a dream, found a vision, and he is making it a reality, and in a very unique way. And so hopefully you're going to enjoy today's presentation. I think it's called Space for Good. And Sean is founder of an organization called Space Entrepreneurs that promotes entrepreneurship in Seattle area for people who are interested in space development. And believe it or not, it is a very, very active space. So please help me welcome Sean.
Excellent. Am I speaking into this? Or
Yep.
What's this one? That's for you. Okay. Okay. Thanks, Leo. First of all, just wanted to say thank you to everyone here for having me. Last week I was able to sit in and learn a little bit more. Everybody hear me okay?
No, gotta get closer.
Little closer? Is that better? Okay. I thought I was going to be talking to here, but anyways, so thank you for having me here. Last week I learned a little bit more about who you are, what you do, and how you do it. I was very impressed from the work you're doing at Nicholsville and the plywood, how committed you guys are to giving, how committed you are to supporting each other. I was inspired by the district governor's story of meeting the boy in Africa and how that little boy taught him Swahili, and that story stuck with him for a long time. So I've been to a few Rotary clubs, but your club seems to stand out as a leading club, both in your founding since '84 and it's continuing today. So thank you for the opportunity to share a subject. Like Leo said, I'm very passionate about it. I work in the industry, and hopefully today I can show you that even though space can be hard to wrap your mind around and seem far away, it can actually tie back into what you're doing in your daily life, right in your own backyard, and of course around the world. So my presentation is Space for Good. So that's space for the good of humanity, and space travel and exploration is here for good. You got the, Leo, got the wrong presentation up. Yeah. So we'll switch that real quick. Sorry.
Press the button.
I'm gonna need to.
I'll show you which one it is. Here you go.
Thanks.
Sorry. Thanks for your patience.
Yeah, I know. It's just there's one.
I bet that's a good one too.
Yeah. I hope that the new one is better. This is what a speech coach does to you. He throws you a curveball and see how you handle it.
Not do any of that.
That's why you have to learn to improvise.
Yes.
Is this the one?
Go to the folder. I'll show you. It's just.
Sorry, it said rotary, so.
It's the final third one. Sorry, I should have deleted the other ones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
my bad. No, down.
Would you
Yep.
pull that out onto the desktop since there's only one?
Okay. Oops. Thanks. What would a speech be without a little hiccup, right? Just gave you guys a little more time to eat your food. So, like Leo said, I'm Sean McClinton. I run an organization called Space Entrepreneurs. We're dedicated to help serving the needs of active and aspiring entrepreneurs with space-related ideas and businesses right here in the Seattle area. So, things I would like to share with you today are the dream of space. The dream of space. That's my dream of space. Show you that the world actually dreams of space together. And then the future dream of space, The next is 3 common myths about space that aren't entirely accurate. And the last is the Seattle area in space and the connection. So this was my dream of space. This is circa 1986, my homemade astronaut costume. Thanks, Mom. That's my sister. We were inseparable. Unfortunately, this was as close as I got to this dream. So what I thought was going to be this ended up to be something more like this. So I'm sure all of you can relate. So one day I found myself sitting down in my boring desk job at a corporation to be named later, building a PowerPoint presentation with an endless amount of orange lines, trying to get each of those orange lines perfectly straight and just the right orange color. And it dawned on me, there's got to be something more to life than this. So kind of like George's story that life is not a practice run, that's what I was realizing here. And what I realized was, this is what I wanted. I wanted to go to space, and at 250 miles up, I wanted to look down at the beauty of the Earth, ponder the philosophical and the spiritual. For those of you who don't know, anybody know what this view is? Or where this is taken? Yeah. It's the International Space Station. This area is called the cupola, and it's got 7 windows around and the large viewing window. And most astronauts will tell you they just can't get enough of this view. They just can't stop looking at the Earth. So that's what I wanted from my space dream. Now, the world has a space dream, and space is an area that is multinational, and in fact, it's an area where countries can collaborate in ways that usually they can't. In fact, traditional wartime enemies like the Soviet Union and the United States were able to collaborate not just on one space station, but 2, even during the Cold War. Recently, a German astronaut spent some time on the space station this summer, Alexander Gerst, and upon seeing rocket fire in Gaza, described the grief he felt as saying, "Some things that on Earth we see in the news every day and thus almost tend to accept as a given, appear very different from our perspective in space. We do not see any borders, political borders in space." Gerst said, "We see a unique planet with a thin, fragile atmosphere suspended in a vast and hostile darkness. From up here, it is crystal clear that on Earth we are one humanity. We eventually all share the same fate." So that's the perspective you can get from being in space. And now the dream of the future of space. Anybody know what this is? Look familiar?
What is it?
There you go. This is an artist concept of Virgin Galactic's Spaceship 2. This will be the world's very first space line, started by Richard Branson and the Virgin Group, due to launch within about a year, paying passengers. Now, Sir Richard is saying that if this technology works, it can be applied to commercial air travel, which will mean, say, point-to-point travel from Seattle to Tokyo in about 2 hours. So that's a long-term play, but that's one example of the future dream of space. Now the myths of space, the 3 myths of space. I'm sure you guys have seen these little guys before. That's one of my favorite movies. Space is too far away. So today, if you were to leave Rotary and drive your car straight up at freeway speeds, you'd be in space in about an hour. That's right. In fact, the space shuttle only took 9 minutes to reach space. So physically, space is not as far away as we might imagine. Second, space is impractical. How many of you here use the internet? Pretty much everyone. How many of you here could live without the internet? I know I couldn't. So the internet was built and is supported by a large network of orbiting satellites that were put up into space by rockets whose technology was developed by NASA. So no space, no internet. Velcro. Velcro technology existed before the space program, but the technology was developed because objects float in space, and so better technology was needed to keep them in place, allowing more practical everyday use in our daily lives, making parents and kids' lives in the morning easier every day. which I can appreciate with 3 little kids at home. Lastly, cleaner water. The long-duration space flights required by the Apollo program demanded a way to have water filtered in space. That technology eventually made its way to private industry, which eventually was passed on to developing countries, allowing humanity to have better, cleaner, and therefore safer water around the world. So those are 3 examples of the technology that has come from space to date. I believe that type of gain for humanity will only continue in the future. The third myth, space is too expensive. Does anybody know who this is? Yep, Seattle resident Charles Samodi. Now, don't worry, he started off paying $25 million, but somebody realized that's a little bit expensive. And that person would be Richard Branson. Now, that's not exactly bargain basement, but you just cut the price down by, an order of magnitude there. So this plane right here will take 6 passengers, 2 pilots, and it's about a 90-minute experience. You'll be weightless at the top. Gravity will pull you back down. It's suborbital. But the big goal here is how do we get it from 25 million down to 250,000 so some of us can start going up into space sooner rather than later. Now they're due to launch this year, but they already have a competitor called XCOR. They're out of California. They've already cut Virgin Galactic's flight price in half before they've even launched. So this is 1 passenger, 1 pilot, again a suborbital experience, which means you go up to the edge of space, which is 62 miles, called the Kármán line, and gravity naturally pulls you back down rather than orbital, where you do orbit the Earth. So the price continues to fall from here depending on the kind of experience you want with space. So 75,000, still pretty steep. This will hold 6 people and carry them to an altitude of about 20 miles, and this is the view you would see. Got a little mini barn here. You take your friends. It's a luxurious experience. 5 hours. Presumably, they will have competitors who will also cut their price in half. So, if you want to get kind of in the range of reality for most people, you don't need to go to space to experience weightlessness. This is a Airbus A300 that's been modified, so the fuselage has been hollowed out, and there are people in there that when this flight does its parabolic flight path, on the upward side you feel about twice the force of gravity. On the downward you will be weightless, and that plane will do about 30 or 40 of those arcs in a flight. So I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So you can see everybody's having a good time. A few people get sick, but they tell you what to eat and how to manage. So at least they're having fun when they're floating. Lastly, I would encourage you to check out some of the world's space heritage sites and museums around the world that are very affordable. This would just be an example of a family vacation to Florida, Cape Canaveral. This is Kennedy Space Center. Anybody recognize that? That's the Saturn V, yeah. So this was the rocket that carried Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin to the moon. And get right up close to it. Tremendous amount of artifacts and history. You can even catch a rocket launch. Even in our backyard here, you've got the Museum of Flight. So space is accessible no matter how you want to see it, no matter whatever your comfort level is, it's there for you. So lastly, space in Seattle. Again, space is a little bit hard to wrap your mind around, but we talked about it being close. But this is what's going on really right in our backyard. It starts with Boeing. This is the lunar rover. It was designed by Boeing right here in Kent. Boeing is also the prime contractor of the International Space Station. Now, a lot of this work is not done here in Washington State, but the vision and the innovation of Boeing is here, and it came from here as a result of the workforce and the talent and the spirit of the Pacific Northwest. But what's more exciting is these companies. These are all private, small companies with interesting ideas of space that are making money currently. Anybody know what this logo is? This is Blue Origin. So that's a Jeff Bezos-backed company that will build rockets and plans to send paying space tourists, be a competitor of a Virgin Galactic type. Next is Planetary Resources. They are in Redmond. They plan to mine asteroids for rare earth metals, water, and other natural resources. In fact, if any of you saw that recent rocket launch that exploded, they had their very first test satellite on that rocket. Now their public face is onward and upward. You know, these things happen. So thankfully nobody was hurt. These two companies are in Tukwila. They are sister companies founded by Jason Andrews. One builds satellites and the other brokers space on launch vehicles for satellites. And lastly, you guys may not have heard, but SpaceX will be opening an office in Bellevue in the near future. You can go on their website and see recent job postings. So opportunity, money is being made, companies are growing. Speaking of SpaceX, everybody probably knows who this guy is. Guy who thinks a little bit outside the box. His dream is Mars, but even though that's probably at least 15 years away, he's paying the bills, he's got a product that's working, that's actually currently carrying stuff to the space station. So,
Who is that?
Elon Musk.
this is Elon Musk, yeah. I know Leo knows. Leo knows a little about Elon. Everybody probably knows who these two guys are. It's a little bit older picture, you know. Kind of wonder what these guys might be up to in this picture, you know, surrounded by these funny looking machines, you know, called the personal computer, which most people didn't really think were necessary in the home back then. Of course, we all know how that story ends, but these people were responsible for creating an industry in Seattle, and we've seen the effects of that industry, such as the Gates Foundation, a global giving organization that's just done tremendous wonders I know you guys work with. But also, Paul Allen himself is very active in the space industry. So this is the concept plane that won the X Prize, and this plane eventually became that Virgin Galactic plane that you saw. So the X Prize was whoever got to space first, twice within 2 weeks, won $10 million to go towards the development of a future spacecraft. So Paul Allen's next project is Strato Launch Systems, similar concept to Virgin Galactic, but for cargo only, heavier payload. So Allen himself believes in space. You can get his book and he'll talk more about it, but a lot of support behind it. So in conclusion, this might be our future. Maybe Elon's right. You know, maybe we are all going to Mars, but I hope that you take away from this presentation that space is not too far away. It's not impractical, and it's not really that expensive. And there's something there for everybody. So I encourage you to go down to the Museum of Flight, talk to people, find out what's going on. There's lots of exciting companies out here doing exciting things. I think it'll benefit our area. Hopefully it'll help you guys do what you do here at Rotary better, you know, in whatever way that might be. So any questions, I'm happy to answer them. And lastly, if anybody is really excited about space now, I will be taking a group down to Florida in June to watch the Falcon 9, Elon Musk's rocket launch on June 13th. And then after that, we will be doing the zero-G flight. So come see me after if you're interested. Thanks for your time. Questions? Yes.
So you can only get within 7 miles, is that what it is? If you're not, that's the newscasters
Right.
within 3 miles?
Yeah, family and friends and certain press can get within that range, and the public will be more at the 7 mile range. You know, so that's a camera stationed at the launch pad, essentially.
Why are they so concerned about the debris that fell down from the rocket? They're telling everybody don't touch it, stay away from it.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, to be honest with you, I don't know the exact reason. My understanding is an abundance of caution because the objects are sharp, you know, and there is rocket fuel covering them. So I don't think, as far as I know, there's no kind of nuclear aspects of what was on that payload. So.
Jim, I read in the paper someplace that or maybe I heard it, that they don't want people there not because there's anything particularly inherently dangerous, but because how things fall back to Earth tells them something when they do the forensic about what happened. They don't want people messing with it.
Gotcha. Thank you.
What's your personal story from the orange lines to what do you do now?
So the orange lines was my aha moment that I needed to be doing something that was more in line with my passion. And so I eventually ended up in the commercial space industry by going down to New Mexico and being a part of the ISPCS, which is kind of a commercial space conference. I met the head of sales for Virgin Galactic and I said, I want to get involved. how do I do that? And she said, talk to a travel agency who can sell tickets on our flights. So I went there. Travel is great. I still do travel, but I realized space is it. So I founded Space Entrepreneurs as a way to, I was born and raised in Seattle, so I can help, be a part of the community, give back. So, yeah.
How do you make any money doing this?
Yeah, so I've got a couple ways. Space Entrepreneurs, we put on events. We had Eric Anderson, the founder of Space Adventures, who sent Simone and 7 other people to the space station. So we've got paying events, membership fees, I run that organization. I mean, as you can see, there are plenty of companies making money, whether it be satellites. Virgin Galactic has booked 700 people at around $200,000 a piece. So there is actually lots of money to be made in the industry, and that should only continue. So. Leo.
Can you say a little bit more about the Space Entrepreneurs and the Meetup group and how it works?
Sure. So Space Entrepreneurs started on the Meetup platform. We actually have some UW students building the standalone website. It really is for, if you're interested in space, maybe you have an idea. I've got a guy who's got an idea for revolutionizing the design of rocket propulsion. Hopefully getting kind of engineering costs down. So I brought him in. He can attend events. We've got resources on the site, just all designed to get your business, your idea from whatever level it's at to the next level.
How often do you meet?
We're monthly generally. Our big event with Eric Anderson was in August, and we've got another one actually in about 3 weeks. So Rusty Schweiker at Apollo 9 astronaut will be speaking.
Where and how?
The Museum of Flight, November 20th, Thursday, November 20th.
You mentioned a couple of the benefits out of the space program. One was clean water, the other Velcro, et cetera. Mm-hmm. As taxpayers, mm-hmm. we seem to hear more about the costs, mm-hmm. but very little about the benefits.
Sure.
It seems like you guys ought to have a benefit cost formula
sure.
instead of a cost benefit formula, and let us know what's going on.
Sure. Yeah, I think the way I see that is that's the federal government's inability to advertise the benefits of the space program. Now,
stopped at inability.
What's that? Yeah.
Stopped at the federal government inability.
Yeah. I guess the point is now the paradigm is shifting. Space has always been government only. Now private industry is getting involved, so that cost-benefit trade-off will become more obvious as public companies get involved, as private companies try to raise investment. That trade-off will become more clear. So, yeah. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Sean.
Yep,
And in your honor, we've donated 300 pounds to Rotary First Harvest, 300 pounds of food to Rotary First Harvest.
Awesome.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for your time.
So I was recently made aware that my 7-year-old didn't know how to tie her shoes. She is the second child. I'm glad I don't have 8 kids because